Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the meeting number 9 of the Environmental Justice Council. My name is Rishi Reddy, and I'm the Director of Environmental Justice for the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. I'm the chair of this council. Before we get into the meeting, there are some Zoom technical points to go over, and I will turn it over to Kessel John to do that for us now.
Hello, everybody, and good afternoon. My name is Kessel John, and I am a member of ERG, a subcontractor that is supporting this effort. I have a few Zoom housekeeping items to go over. Please use the interpretation channel, which is symbolized by a globe within your Zoom control panel, to select your preferred language. We are also offering this meeting in ASL. If you are speaking in English, please select the English channel so you will be able to hear any translated comments. Closed captioning is also available. Please send an email to meetings@erg.com if you have any technical questions relating to meeting logistics. A link and with information and the documents used in the meeting, including slides and the agenda, will be dropped into the chat. I would like to remind council members that they should not use the Zoom chat for anything other than logistics, as the audience does not have access to this chat and discussions need to happen in public view. I would also like to remind council members to state their name when they are making comments, because this is a virtual meeting. I'll now turn it back over to Rishi.
Thank you so much. I will take a roll call now of the members of the council who are present, and we need to have a quorum before we can proceed. So I will call out your name and please just say that you're here. And let me begin alphabetically. Melissa Ferretti, please.
I'm present.
Cheryl Hawley, please.
Present.
Caroline Hahn.
I'm here.
Lydia Lowe. I think Lydia is not here yet. Marcos Luna.
Present.
Peter Mathe.
Present.
Sophia Owen.
Present.
Jen Salinetti.
Present.
Pat Spence.
Patricia Spence is present.
Ari Zorn. And I believe Kalila Barnett is not present today. Namrata Kapoor is not present today. And Madeline Fraser Cook is also not present today. Let me go back and see if Lydia Lowe is present. No. We are at quorum. We have 14 members on this council, and we have more than half present, so I think we can go ahead. I would also like to announce 2 new members on the council, Sophia Owen and Jen Salinetti. If you don't mind, I just wanted to give you both an opportunity to introduce yourself and say a few words about your background. Sophia, may I call on you first?
Sure. Good afternoon. Yes, it is now. I'm Sophia Owen. I use they and she pronouns, and I am the senior attorney and the director of environmental justice legal services at Alternatives for Community and Environment, or ACE, which is a community-based organization that is Black-led and predominantly Black staffed. And we focus on environmental justice and transit justice. And we are rooted in the historically Black neighborhood of Roxbury in Boston. And I have been doing EJ related work for most of my legal career, and have a background both in the law and policy around environmental and EJ issues, and some experience in doing organizing as well. And I'm really glad to be a part of the council.
Thank you so much, Sophia. And I'll also call on Jen Salinetti to just say brief words on her background and introduce herself.
Sure. Greetings, everyone. Thank you. My name is Jen Salinetti. I use she, her pronouns. I'm calling from, actually, I'm currently on Nipmuc land, but where I live and work from is on the unceded land of the Mohican Nation in Berkshire, Sheringham, Massachusetts. And I am co-founder and executive director of Woven Roots Farm and Education Center. Our farm focuses on traditional farming practices, community education, food access, food justice throughout the Western Mass region. And this is work that I've been involved with on a community level for over 20 years. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Jen. It's
Thank you.
great to have you both on board with us. Welcome. And we really look forward to working with you all and having your voices on this group where we are talking about environmental justice principles across the Commonwealth, and also doing work specifically to comment on the environmental justice population definition across the state. Your two voices will be invaluable to us, and we really welcome the perspective you bring. So I don't know if anybody else on the council had anything to say about our two new members. But if so, I just want to open that up to folks if they had something to say about that. Okay. Moving on, we will review the minutes that we've sent out to folks beforehand. These are the minutes from the February 8th meeting. I wanted to know if anybody had any amendments that they would like to propose for those minutes, and if so, to share what those amendments might be, and please make a motion to make a change or two, and if not, we can move to also approve the minutes. So let me open up the floor for that. Anybody have any changes they would want to propose? If not, then I will take a motion from somebody, anybody who would propose to approve those minutes, and a second, please, for that motion.
I'd make a go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Patricia.
Patricia Spence makes a motion to approve the, let me get the date right, February 8th minutes of the Environmental Justice Council.
I'll
Thank
second.
you so much. I'm sorry. Did we have a second?
Melissa Ferretti, second.
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you, Melissa. So if I will now run down the roster to see if we can get a vote on approving those minutes. So one more time, Cheryl Hawley, please, on a vote to approve the minutes from February 8th.
I approve.
Thank you, Cheryl. Caroline Hahn, please.
I approve.
Thank you. Marcos Luna, please.
I need to abstain because I wasn't present.
Thank you, Marcos. Peter Mathe, please.
Abstain as well. I was not present.
Sophia Owen. Sophia, I think you were not present, of course.
Yep. So I also have to abstain. Thanks.
I will approve yet. I will vote yes. Jen, I believe you were also not at the last meeting, of course.
Correct.
Abstention, please.
Patricia, you've moved. Ari Zorn, please. Ari's still not here. And is Lydia Lowe here? No.
Yes, approve.
Thank you, Lydia. Wonderful. Okay. So I have a vote of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 folks who were present at that meeting, and that would be enough to carry that motion for the previous meeting. So we will go ahead and approve those February 8th minutes, and we will have those translated and up on the website in the coming weeks. Thank you for that. Okay, so we are moving on here. The next piece on the agenda is something that's very exciting for us at EEA. We have a new Undersecretary of Environmental Justice and Equity, and her name is Maria Belen Power. She's well known to many of us on this call, so I'd like to hand it over to her for an introduction and some comments on a grand vision for what we will do here at EEA in the coming months and years.
Thanks, Rishi. Am I don't know if folks can see me or not. There we go. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, thanks, Rishi, for the introduction. Like Rishi said, my name is Maria Belen Power. I am originally from Nicaragua, but have been living in the US for about 15 years now. I come from the EJ organizing world or space, formerly at Green Roots in Chelsea and East Boston, and you know, really honored to be the first Undersecretary of Environmental Justice. And I know the Secretary of EEA, Secretary Tepper, has been very intentional about the undersecretaries, and so we are here as a resource to you, the Council, and to the communities, folks who may be listening in, but also communities across the Commonwealth. I do want to thank the Council for all of the work that they've done. I know it's a lot, and I know it's not easy, and I also know it's not paid. So it's sort of volunteer and free work, but it is super valued. It's really meaningful to have all of your input, and I think the idea is now to implement all of the plans and strategies that we have been talking about for a really long time. So I guess I want to share initially my initial goals have been to really get to know all the agencies. I think there's about 12 or so. There's 6 sort of clear agencies, and then there are 6 or more initiatives and programs under EEA. And so really getting to know the buckets within the buckets of work, and also really finalize the EJ strategy that has been in the works for a really long time. So finalizing the strategy so that we can start implementing it. Like I said, there's been a lot of work on the policy. We have a lot of mandates and guidelines from the legislature, and now we just have to implement. We can always work on additional policies and additional frameworks to provide even more protections for EJ communities. But at this point, there is an opportunity. There's an incredible amount of funding coming down from the federal government, and there is, political will to move some of these things forward. And so we really have to get going and really implement the ideas and strategies that we have been talking about for a really long time. I do also want to thank Rishi Reddy and Carlene Lemoyne, who have been really instrumental in the work that has already happened to this day. There's been a lot of work in defining the definition and coming up with a definition, and really ensuring that that we are defining EJ populations and cities and towns versus neighborhoods. We know that now with the new definition, the majority of cities and towns do fall under the definition, but there is a difference between block groups and neighborhoods versus cities and towns. And so we're really trying to get granular into the neighborhoods and the block groups that are the most impacted by the climate crisis. There has, also been a lot of work on the CECP, the Clean Energy and Climate Plan, and the Global Warming Solutions Act. A lot of stakeholder engagement. Maybe too much. Maybe some folks on the in the communities may feel like they are asked over and over and over again what they want to see and what they hope from government, and the idea is to now implement all of those ideas that have come from stakeholder engagement. And we don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to replicate any efforts that have already happened. So I guess I do want to mention some stakeholder groups that we are thinking of reaching out to in a more sort of consistent way. And if there are groups or buckets and categories that we are missing, please let us know. I will drop my email in the chat so folks can reach out. But you know, there has been a lot of work in creating these bodies, and so instead of duplicating efforts, we want to make sure that we utilize the spaces that already exist to take that feedback from those stakeholders. So, you know, one of them is this body, the EJ Council. There is the EJ Task Force within EEA, the Interagency EJ Working Group, which will have to be created and implemented. The EJ Table, which is advocates and EJ organizations in different communities across the Commonwealth. We also want to make sure that we are including public health experts and public health sort of the expertise around public health, because this is, at the end of the day, this is about outcomes. So the Massachusetts Public Health Association, Health Resources in Action, the Public Health Institute of Western Mass, those are some of the coalitions or agencies or groups of organizations that we do want to engage. So like I said, if there are coalitions or groups of experts that folks think we should be including and should be at the forefront of the engagement, please let us know. Like I said, we don't want to replicate and overburden folks with more and more stakeholder meetings. And, you know, I guess I'll end with, we can't do this alone. I can't do this alone. We are sort of into the first few months of a new administration. We are, you know, in one office of 3 folks. We're hoping to ramp up, hoping that the legislature does approve the governor's budget so that we can hire folks that will implement environmental justice across the agencies. The hope is to have two folks per agency so that we can implement it in a meaningful way. And yeah, I guess I'll end it with, we're here for you guys. If you all need anything, there are 4 undersecretaries, Undersecretary Tepper, myself on environmental justice and equity, Catherine Antos on decarbonization and resilience, Mike Judge on energy, and Stephanie Cooper on environment. So between the 4 of us, we want to make sure that we're coordinating and that we're strategizing together, and that we're here for all of you, for the communities, for the EJ Council as a resource, and in providing as much support as we can in moving the priorities forward so that we can start implementing a lot of these plans and strategies, and that we can get to decarbonizing the grid, decarbonizing our economy while protecting the most vulnerable populations across the Commonwealth. So thank you all so much, and I will hand it back to Rishi.
Thank you so much, Maria Belén. We certainly have our work cut out for us. But I think that this group, the EJ Council, will have a key role in that work. And we would like to, set our sights on focusing this group's effort on some of the major initiatives and also on the EJ population definition. So thank you for outlining that for us today. I'd like to turn this over to the next agenda item, which was a few minutes set aside for public comment and any input from stakeholders and advocates who are on this call today. So I'll open up the floor for that. There may be a few minutes of silence as people gather their thoughts, and that's fine, but we'll just hold that silence for a while. People can make comments either on the Q&A or they can raise their hand and Kessel will be calling on you. Please speak slowly for the interpreters. And we can also receive comments and input through the interpreters themselves. So I once again ask folks who are English speakers to be affirmatively in the English speaking channel so that if things come over in translation, you can understand them in English. So I'll just open up the floor for that, please. I just want to say I cannot see people. I think only Kessel can see people from her viewpoint.
I was going to say, I see Catherine Rodriguez. I'm now going to allow you to talk, but you will have to unmute yourself. All right, you should be able to unmute yourself now. If you're trying to speak, we cannot hear you. There's an option to call in via phone if you go, wait,
Can you
is
hear
that?
me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Oh, great. Thank you. My name is Kathy Rodriguez. I'm from the city of Taunton. I live in an environmental justice zone. I've been to these meetings before, and I really want to thank you because I thought nobody was out there until I got a hold of these meetings. I still feel like I'm the only one out here, but I did want to mention that Southeastern Mass, we're down here in Taunton, and we're just living it down here. I cannot engage any government agency for any help. And I just wanted you to know there are people out there that need to know about you, especially in these communities. I called the Board of Health for air pollution last week. They send down a housing inspector. This is the kind of response we get when we contact the government. It's marginalizing us. It's, you know, we can't open our windows. We have disabled persons here. I just want you to know that we appreciate it, and, you know, we're here. We'd like some contact. We're still working.
Yeah, Ms. Rodriguez, I certainly remember you from other meetings, and I would just ask, would you be able to contact us at the EJ office at EEA, and we're happy to set up a meeting with you. I'd like to hear more about these instances that you've named both in this meeting and in previous meetings.
Sure, I will. Thank you.
Okay, and my email address is rishi.reddi@mass.gov, at mass.gov. So
Great.
please do reach out to us. I do know that you've spoken about this before, and I'd like to hear more, as well as would the Undersecretary and the entire EJ team.
Thank you. I appreciate everything that you're doing. That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Catherine. Now I see, excuse me, Tina, I'm going to unmute you. All right, you should have the ability to unmute yourself, excuse me.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Well, first of all, thanks all of you for the work that you are doing, and for the leadership that Mary Belinda, you're going to be giving to not only this group, but the rest of EEA, and working together with Rebecca Tepper and Melissa Hoffer. I live in Hudson, Mass. I'm part of an organization leadership team of Elders Climate Action Mass. And my question is the interagency council, I believe it was called, or the advisory group that was meeting around the Clean Energy Climate Plan, seems to have stopped meeting. Is it going to continue to meet, or what is the status of that group now?
Yeah, I can take that, Rishi, if that's okay. There have been several interagency sort of initiatives in the past. The intention of the EJ Interagency Working Group is to create, similar to other plans and processes, is to create a permanent body from each secretariat. So, DOT, DHCD, so housing, transportation, education. So folks that are appointed from each agency to work together on environmental justice. It has not been created. And with the new administration and new point people, we really want to be intentional about the creation of the interagency working group. And so, so that is our priority right now, is creating that body so that there could be collaboration. We know a lot of times it's difficult for agencies to collaborate because there is so much work going on just in their own agencies. And so having that body will be important for the collaboration to happen. As we know, public health, has a lot to do with transportation, and transportation has a lot to do with housing, and housing has a lot to do with public health. So there is a lot of interconnection and overlap that has to happen if we're going to address these issues in a holistic way.
Great. Great. Do you have a timeline when that group is going to be put together? You think by the summer or by the fall? What's your estimate?
Yeah, I mean, we so there is no date that we have sort of on paper, but there is, but we're creating those deadlines for us internally so that we move. For example, the EJC strategy we are finalizing right now, the interagency working group, as well as the task force, are bodies that we have to create right away. So, hopefully by the summer, we will have created those, and we will have appointments from each secretary to represent their agencies at the working group.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Tina. And Rishi, we have one comment in the Q&A right now.
And let me just go back to Tina's question. I think it was also in particular about the implementation, the IAC group that had helped develop the clean energy and climate plan. I don't know the answer to the question of whether that particular group is going to be continuing in its function, because it was instrumental to development of the clean energy and climate plan. So in light of all these other groups that the undersecretary's just spoken about, I don't know if there's any thought about reconvening that group, but I will certainly find that out for you, Tina. If you wanted to get in touch with me, I could let you know.
Thank you. I think people out in the community across the state, people who are advocates, who are doing, the work, there's not a lot of transparency about these processes. And so I really appreciate this group and the transparency you've had with the meetings in this group. The more that you can let people know what is going on at the administrative level is really important. Thank you.
Well understood. Thank you. And then you said that there's a question in the chat, Kessel.
Yes, Claire Leahy, and I apologize if I mispronounce your last name, said air pollution measurements for identifying sacred zones in rural communities.
Sacrifice zones.
Oh, excuse me, sacrifice zones.
And the question is whether we will have air pollution measurements.
I'm not sure. Claire, if you wanted to raise your hand, I can unmute you, and that you might be able to offer some clarity. Yes. Wait. Oh, I think I muted the wrong person. 1 second. All right, Claire, you can unmute yourself if you would like.
Okay, I have unmuted myself. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Claire Leahy. I live in Lee, Massachusetts, in Western Mass, in the Berkshires, and we're a pretty rural area. And I have thank you again for all your work. As everybody else has said, I've been watching your webinars, so kind of trying to get an idea of how I can be involved in this, fighting some things that are going on in our community and looking very seriously at the environmental justice and the threat to our health of a dump that's going to be put in our backyard. And I've just been communicating with the Center for Environmental and Health Justice, Environmental Health and Environment, Center for Health and Environmental Justice. And one of their webinars was identifying sacrifice zones by using air pollution measurements that are made across the country and accessible. But I don't think that we're that able to get these measurements in rural communities, and whether or not that would be a good way to identify an area that is having has had enough pollution already that we shouldn't be adding to it. I just thought it was an interesting concept and wondered if air pollution would be one of your measurements for. Just wondered about whether or not this is the type of thing that you might be doing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Rishi.
Thank you so much for your comment. What you're asking is a really key question in terms of several things. The first thing is how we're going to gauge what the standard is out there right now in terms of our baseline for measuring pollutants and burdens, both in the energy realm and the environmental realm. So air pollution is definitely one of those pieces. And the Department of Environmental Protection has been making a big push to have air quality monitors out in the Commonwealth. And the western part of the state is definitely part of that equation. So we will be deploying more of those monitors as time goes by. The idea about having those monitors out there is also to establish that baseline data to see where we're starting from. And Ms. Leahy, you are really bringing in a important point here around air pollution in Massachusetts and how it's a very crucial issue. We are, transportation and mobile air sources come up to almost 40% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the Commonwealth right now. So, and the way that sources have been cited, we have certainly identified areas that are known to be sacrifice zones in that context. So we are looking towards exactly these type of metrics to measure how we will be doing in this realm, and air pollution is a key part of that. I also want to say the Department of Environmental Protection has been making a big push in looking at cumulative impacts in the way that they permit air sources, so both by transportation and for sources that don't move, stationary sources. The cumulative impact assessment, where we look at a number of burdens in a community, is specific to our new way of permitting stationary sources in a particular area. So you are out in Lee. I do know that you have sources out there, and so thank you for your comment. And we would love to have you comment on that, on the DEP efforts here and more as we move forward in this. So thank you for that. And
thanks, Rishi. I just wanted to add, and I apologize, I have to hop off for a climate meeting with the secretary. I do want to add there is a lot of work that has already happened, and the air pollution and air quality monitoring is one of the sort of metrics that we're looking at for the Clean Energy and Climate Plan, the CECP, but also in terms of priorities. I know there's a lot of organizations and coalitions in Massachusetts that have prioritized air quality. And so moving those priorities so that we have clear mandates for reduction as well as implementation and collaboration with boards of health, with the Department of Health, with the different agencies, I think will be critical in implementing a lot of these. I'm sorry, I think I'm going too fast for the interpreters. A lot of these goals that we have set for our communities. So air pollution and air monitoring is probably, one of the top metrics that we will have to use as we move forward these plans and these strategies, as well as getting support from the legislature and from advocates on the outside.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your answers and what you're doing.
And I do apologize, I will have to hop off, but Rishi obviously is here to answer any questions, and Carlene Lemoyne and I, Rishi, Carlene and I are here for all of you, for the communities, for the council members. So please don't hesitate to reach out and to let us know if you have any questions or concerns. And thank you all for all the work that you do.
I'm sorry, but I did not see who was speaking just now.
This is Maria Belén Power, Undersecretary of Environmental Justice and Equity, and I will drop my email in the chat again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we will come back to some more questions later on in this meeting, but we do need to go on to the working part of this council meeting. So I want to turn now to the question that's our main priority for the council members, which is to put together a comment document that will serve as the Environmental Justice Council's formal comments on the draft environmental justice strategy that was released in November of last year. So I am hoping that we can put that document up on the screen for our discussion. So can everybody see that? Chris, I think you have that up for us. Is that right?
That's right. I have it up.
Okay, I just wanted to have context. I can see it, so I'm going to assume that everybody else can too. All right, so here's the comment document that we were looking at from our last meeting, and especially for our newcomers, for Sophia and Jen. We put together this document off of a much longer document that we discussed on February 8th. From the comments from that February 8th meeting from council members, we decided to delete a few comments that folks could not agree upon. And with the idea that what we were going to work towards was a consensus set of comments that we could submit together. So what we did in response to those comments, with some consultation for us, deleted those comments, and then of the remaining comments, consolidated them because many of them were similar. And then we put together this much shorter document with which we have on the screen right now. So that's kind of where we are coming from. I'm just wondering if anybody has any questions about that amongst the council members. And I also want to remind folks here that in case there's any pressing comments that you would make on your behalf or on behalf of the organizations you represent, those can still be made individually, under your own letterhead and as coming from your particular organization. And we have had folks amongst our council members choose to do that. So I just want to put that out there as an option that still remains to folks on the council if they feel like we've really missed something in this document that they think should be included. So if there's any questions about the process by which we arrived at this document, please bring them up now for discussion. at this point.
Rishi, this is Caroline. I support the approach that that the team has taken and that our consultants taken to pull together the consensus. I think it makes a lot of sense. I just want to thank them for doing so, because it is I know that was a lot of work, and we spent quite a bit of time really trying to rationalize them in the last meeting. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Caroline. It was a lot. We had a lot of material. We had a lot of really good comments, and ERG was really fabulous in helping us organize them. So thank you for recognizing them. Any other questions or clarifications on the way that we arrived at this document? If not, I wanted folks to focus on a couple of things. Were there any comments that you felt needed clarification, or perhaps shouldn't be in this space right now that we should discuss? So kind of, should we highlight any comments at this point that folks here feel needs more discussion amongst our group right now?
Rishi, this is Marcos. I have
Thanks, Marcos.
for item number 8. I just wanted to offer maybe a clarification well, there's a missing word in there in the first line. It says within a community opposed. It's a little confusing the way it reads right now. And I think it was supposed to have read as opposed to expecting communities, but I'm wondering if it would be clear to say rather than expecting communities.
Yes, I like that. I don't know what others think.
Okay, that's all. That was the only thing, just clarification.
This is Jen Salinetti. I think that's a helpful language shift. I had to read that a couple times, so thank you for that, Marcos.
This is Ari Zorn. I agree.
Great, thank you for that, Marcos. I think I just read it a couple of times and I just thought, okay, I clarified it to myself, but your changes, I think, it makes it much clearer. Any other comments?
Rishi, this is Sophia, and I apologize if I'm jumping in when I shouldn't be, since I was not a part of the last meetings where this was discussed, but just in looking at the piece around community engagement, I think this is number 11, where it talks about the use of plain language for non-technical audiences and adapting language to the community. I think one thing that it may be worth adding here, in addition to just translation, is the fact that it needs to be language that is plain language that is actually accessible to people in the community. And in a lot of cases, because of existing inequity, that means a 4th grade reading level. So I think potentially getting specific about what that means could be helpful.
Sophia, are you, first of all, I think it's fabulous that you are jumping in, even without being at the last meeting. Are you proposing that we should put specifically the 4th grade reading level in the comment?
I would recommend that at least for materials that are intended for community outreach, that they be understandable to someone with a 4th grade reading level. I have heard in a variety of places that is the baseline where we are.
Just wondering what others think of that. The addition of the reading level comment, and then also the specificity of 4th grade.
I think it varies by language group, but I think maybe something about, because it's just like example given, but maybe something like language translation, attention to literacy level or something like that.
Patricia, was that you? I missed who was just speaking. I'm sorry.
I believe that was Lydia.
Oh, Lydia.
Yeah, sorry.
Here, thanks, Lydia. Just for the note takers, so we know. Yeah.
And I actually agree with, this is Pat Spence at this point. But I do agree with the wording. I agree with the importance in general. But I do agree with the wording. Oftentimes, we kind of check the box when we've translated in different languages. And I learned a long time ago, you've got to be literate in your language. So it doesn't mean that, we're still communicating with people. So that is an excellent point. This is again, Patricia Spence.
And would, just generally amongst the group, what's the feeling about keeping it more general as attention to literacy level versus pinpointing the fourth grade? Are folks in agreement with keeping it a little more general?
Sorry, this is Ari Zorn. I like attention to literacy level. It just sounds much more friendly to people and not insulting.
Any other thoughts on that? Thank you for that, Ari.
Rishi, this is Peter Monte. I tend to like the I like the addition, but I also like the literacy level at fourth grade, because I think that adds a level of specificity as guidance. So at the very highest fourth grade level, and then in addition to the language nuances. So I like the specificity.
You like the
specificity of the guidelines. Yeah.
Okay. One thing we could do is highlight both pieces. We could say attention to literacy levels, such as a standard designation at fourth grade, or something like that, which recognizes the fourth grade level, which I have heard before, Sophia and Peter, as being sort of the standard right now. So how would people feel about including both? Attention to literacy level, just as a general comment, and then something like what Chris is putting in there now. Would that work for all of us?
This is Marcos. So I want to agree with that, putting both. I'd say it should say standard designation at fourth grade reading level. And just for context for other folks who may not, I know it may sound low, but believe it or not, standard for newspapers is supposed to be a sixth grade reading level. So just to give it a point of context.
Thank you for that, Marcos. I have heard that about journalists from journalism as well.
This is Sophia. That works for me. And I think, the part of what I'm thinking about here is that, all too often it is on the backs of advocates and community-based organizations to be the ones taking things and breaking them down, not for ourselves and our staff and our volunteers, and then taking it out into the community. So having this be a requirement on the state level, at the agency level, I think it would be a very meaningful change that would make things more accessible across the board.
Lydia and Ari, are you okay with that to have this statement come in the way that it reads right now?
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay. So just moving on down, were there any other issues that people saw in their review?
This is Jen Salonetti. It would actually be going up to the first point that I'm wondering if this suggestion of or the recommendation to highlight 1 or 2 pilot efforts, if we could specify within those pilot efforts, 1 urban and 1 rural.
Thank you, Jen. That makes sense to me in the same. So it could say perhaps at least 1 urban and 1 rural.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
How do others feel about that? Let me put it this way, any objections to including that?
This is Marcos. I just want to say I agree with that. It's a great suggestion. I was looking for the thumbs up button. I couldn't find it. So
Okay, that's great.
Same here, Marcos.
Great. Okay, if there's no objections to that, let's have that in this draft. And thank you for that, Jen. I think that's a really great addition. Any others? Going once, going twice.
This is Jen Salonetti again. I have a question about 17. The spending and other activities should be reported both in total and relative to total spending for all communities or across the Commonwealth. So I was just wondering what the difference is between those two.
And relative to total. I think that or must be a typo. Do others agree?
this is Marco. So at the risk of complicating it, so I could see 2 things. I imagine it was intended to clarify, but it doesn't. So you could say across the Commonwealth, but I'm wondering now if it makes sense to think about who you're comparing to. So like the earlier point, Jen, about urban and rural, I wonder if it makes sense to have, I could see comparing what's going on in one community against the whole community, the whole state, but then also wanting it to be compared relative to its region, if that makes sense, or is that too much in the weeds? I don't know.
Marcus, are you proposing 2 comparisons? So it would be both across the Commonwealth and then in the region that it's located.
Yeah, I think across the Commonwealth is a standard point of comparison, but I'm also wondering, some kinds of activities are going to they're only really comparable to other communities that are similarly situated, like in the same region, like, coastal communities versus inland communities versus rural communities. Like they kind of different buckets they fall into, but we could go, the danger is we could go on and on with different categories. I'm just wondering if we should enumerate a few of them, like urban versus rural or coastal or inland.
I think that makes sense to put in the examples. And I also wonder if we should leave a choice. So for instance, something that says spending and other activities should be reported in total relative to total spending for all communities across the Commonwealth, or relative to other similarly situated communities as appropriate, or something like that. Is that kind of what you're going for?
Yeah, I think that way you can choose as it makes sense to do that. Yeah, because I'm thinking that's a good point, because like I know the MVP program, the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program, breaks the state up into regions. And that's one thing you'd like to know, like where resources are going, for example.
Maybe it should be and, so that the bottom line is in total and relative to the Commonwealth. But and there could be other comparisons.
We could do an and or, Lydia. That was you, Lydia, right?
Oh, yes, this is Lydia, sorry.
Great. We could do that. I mean, I know it's not very graceful in terms of language, but it does capture everything.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone object to this approach? No
How
objection.
come he found
Okay.
the thumbs up?
Okay, good. I mean, all right, good. If we don't object, because I think this is a great change. I think this is very good to think of it in this way, and we've certainly clarified it. Great. Any other comments?
I have two other, this is Jen Salonetti again, but I'm also speaking a lot, so I will step back.
Go ahead, Jen. No, go ahead.
Okay. I'm coming from the innocent space of being new here. But my question on 25, line 25 for considering equity related support to address challenges for vulnerable populations. I'm wondering, is there a baseline analysis of current work within EJ communities that in this, I guess within every agency, but specifically for MDAR here, is that something that is expected to be a part of the initial strategy work, so that we know where we're going, coming from and going towards?
Yeah,
and if not, can it be added to this?
Well, I'll just answer that briefly. There's been a lot of attention paid to metrics, and there will be a lot of attention paid to metrics. And in order to make that make sense, we're going to be setting baselines for a lot of these programs. And of course, MDAR would be, one of them. And I know they've already done a lot of work and thinking around this. So, yes, there would be a setting of baseline.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful to hear. My other comment is on line 27, clarify strategy for increasing access. And I would add education to that as well.
How would you have it read, Jen? So,
clarify strategy for increasing education and access to recreation facilities.
And maybe we could specify what the education is about. If people agree. I mean, I'm just proposing that.
Yeah. Conservation as education. I mean, I think, part of what I'm thinking about is how, there historically have been communities that have been pushed out of recreational spaces, what it means to both learn about the space itself, what it means to feel safe in that space, to feel like it's a place where knowledge can be both accessed and expanded on. I don't know if I have a specific word for it. But I'm just thinking about being in situations and in communities where it's just the norm is to not go into recreational spaces, especially outdoor spaces.
How about would clarify a strategy for increasing awareness of availability and access?
Yeah, that's helpful language. Thank you.
This is Patricia Spence, and I absolutely agree with that. So often, just having grown up in Dorchester, Franklin Park, Houghton's Pond. These are a couple of areas, and maybe two other areas. But for example, you never knew about the Harbor Islands, which people have been working on. But there's just so many places that folks that even live in the communities just would never know. So that actually is just a critical point. I can't think of a better way to say it, but it is very critical.
Thanks, Pat. Does anybody object to the addition of that language, or is there any suggestions for further editing that?
Rishi, this is Chris at ERG. I just wanted to, before folks vote on this, check on a word in the final piece, other statutes, agencies. I wonder if that's meant to be other state agencies.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Chris. Another piece here that when we do come to vote on this, that we would do to make this document final would be, we would remove, Chris, if you could just scroll up a little bit so folks could see on that very right hand column there, which is now called discussion notes, we would be removing anything that's not bolded. So that type of material that Chris is highlighting, we would remove that in our final document. And what would remain, and we would also be removing the third column completely. So Chris, if you could just go down to where you just were at for MDR. So like say comment 25, we would propose that the final document would read for comment 25. It would have the column that says general, then it has that the box that begins with consider equity related support, and then we would delete that column that Chris is marking right there, and then we would retain the comment that says, hey, this applies to all state agency plans. It's a really good plan. And that does appear in the other, it appears in the other places too, just to make sure that people know what we mean. This is a general comment and it would be good for everybody. So that's what our comment document would look like. And I submit that all to you as a way to formalize this document. I'd love any comments or thoughts on that.
This is Lydia. Could we go back to point 27? I'm actually thinking that maybe we should say clarify strategy for increasing awareness, availability and access. Because I feel like that speaks to both like increasing the awareness of these facilities, increasing access to them, but also the availability speaks to potentially increasing the facilities that communities can access.
Any objections to that change?
This is Marcos.
Sophia.
Oh,
sorry, go ahead, Marcos.
Oh.
No.
To just add to the word train we're developing here, but I think it's good to think it out. So I would add, I was thinking about Jen's comment about people not feeling comfortable historically too. With actually, it's not just about knowing, but like feeling welcome. But I don't know if we want to say that. So I'd say maybe adding utilization there too. Like part of what we hope is that people would be not just aware, but they would be like brought in. So I'm trying to think of a word that would be like
familiarity, maybe.
Yeah, something along the lines of like of just actually giving people the comfort or confidence to actually use these resources.
How about inclusivity?
Inclusivity, yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
That was what I was gonna use. Inclusivity.
Yes.
Yeah. You hear that word a lot, and
yeah, that's good.
This is Pat Spence again. I like all three words, but Marcos, what was the word you had said before? But utilization is very specific.
yeah. I just thought it would be like that getting people to use it would actually be the proof that people feel
Yeah,
comfortable.
I like that word utilization because awareness, availability. We want you to be aware. We're letting you know it's available to you. It's going to, we're looking for it to be inclusive, but that doesn't say we're going to make a point to get people in. So utilization, I do like that word.
This is Sophia. I think that this sort of relates to 27, but goes in a little bit of a different direction. I'm thinking about the fact that it's there's just such a disparity between communities with EJ populations and those that are whiter and wealthier in terms of just having trees and parks, period. And so I'm not quite sure where this belongs, but I think there should be something in the DCR section that relates to a strategy to ensure that we are maintaining and expanding green spaces that are available in some of those communities where the heat island impact is worst and where there's disparity in terms of the tree canopy. But if that belongs somewhere else, happy to have that go elsewhere.
Sophia, you're proposing that as a completely different comment, not something to include here.
Yes.
Okay.
And I can try to wordsmith something, but.
Well, let's try to do it right now if you can think of, yeah.
I think the pieces that feel most urgent to me are clarifying the strategy to ensure that green spaces in areas with EJ populations are equally well maintained and resourced. Does that make sense?
Are well maintained, and what was the second?
And then resourced both in terms of the budget for staff and for maintenance to ensure that the trees and other natural resources that are there can thrive.
I think we should also use, I think resourced is fine, and I think we should also use the word maintained. I think.
Yep. That works for me.
And I think this is Lydia, I think it starts to ensure that green spaces, that there are green spaces.
Yes. +1 to that.
We're at that step, okay. That green spaces are available or are developed or,
Established, could we
Established.
say are equitably established, maintained, and resourced?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is Ari Zorn. When you originally spoke, you used the word equally, which should be in there in some way.
I would suggest actually that equitably makes more sense, with the idea being that these are resources that may not currently exist, and I can point to examples locally in the Boston area, but open to other thoughts.
I think we should use the word that captures the fact that in some EJ areas, we don't have these resources yet, and that we actually may want to focus more attention on establishing them there so that across the Commonwealth, folks are having access to green space. So whichever word there can establish that equally kind of.
I think it's equitable. This is Lydia. I think equitably, I mean, it's partly a generational issue, but I think that when people use the term equitably or equity, they're talking not just about things being equal across the board, but that it's a more historic term addressing inequity. So I don't know.
Could you live with that, Ari, if we went with equitably in this? Or do you want to, we could put an and in there?
I was just actually going back to when I forgot the person who made the comment, is that places in impacted communities and EJ communities normally get forgotten about. I'm fine with equitably. I was just noticing that she stated that when she first made her comments.
And does
So
this,
yeah, I'm fine with it.
you're fine with it. Okay, so that could capture your intention there as well. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you for that, Sophia. That's a nice addition, I think.
This is Marcos. Sorry, on the 27, I just wonder, just to raise up Sophia's point about trees, because DCR does have a program to support urban and community forestry. So I'm just wondering, language wise, green spaces, you think of like areas of land, but I don't know if we want to say, and yeah, tree canopy. Yeah, that might be a way.
Then it's increased as opposed to established.
Or both.
Yeah.
Well, I think resourced might. Yep.
Established or increased.
Or you could say improved.
Yeah, improved is good.
So I'm just looking at the time here. And Chris, you've got a misspelling there on the improved.
Thank you.
Are folks good with this comment right now? Are there any objections to how it's?
This is Patricia Spence. I actually are equitably established. If you're improving something, you're improving what's already there. I think increased is implying that you're adding more to. So I still like the word increase. We want to increase the tree canopy. We want to increase the green spaces, not just improve, unless I'm looking at this incorrectly.
I think you might be onto something, Pat. We could put established with a comma and then increased or improved with a comma, maintained and resourced.
Yeah.
That would be fine. Yeah.
Because we want increased and improved.
Absolutely. Yeah. We want it all. We want it all.
Yeah.
So can we go back to comment 27 just for 1 second? So clarifying the strategy for increasing awareness, availability, inclusivity of recreational facilities in only EJ communities? Because as a person from an EJ community, it's harder to, I think, access recreational facilities outside of my community, like in nice neighborhoods.
Used by instead of in.
For, yeah.
Well, I think within and without EJ, I mean, with across the whole state, not just in EJ communities. Should we have a availability and can't we utilize recreational facilities in other communities in the state?
So it's for EJ communities or
Well,
for use by EJ communities or something.
This is Marcos. I think maybe the point is that we want, so that it's more, we want the increasing awareness, building inclusivity to be more equitable in general, right? because on the one hand, we want all communities to have adequate access, but we're also addressing here the ones that have been left behind historically. So I wonder if we said strategy for increasing awareness, inclusivity, access to utilization, recreation, equitably, or do we want to say, specifically for EJ community? Just because when you bring in EJ communities, then you have to decide in EJ communities for EJ communities. If we say equitably for communities, then we're saying everybody should have fair access to this stuff.
Or you could just say utilization of state recreational facilities for EJ communities. That state would cover everybody or everything in the state, correct?
I just want to point out that this discussion is actually landing on a pretty complex issue about the way that EJ neighborhoods and populations. I would actually say we probably shouldn't use the word communities. I would like to use the word populations instead of communities, EJ populations, because that's a defined term. But this is landing on a really complex issue that I know needs to be thought about to a greater degree within the state agencies. And what we're trying to pinpoint here in the comment is, I think, only to direct the state agency to, hey, you need to do this, you need to figure this out. I don't think we can figure it out in the language. We can only say, we want to make sure that you guys you meaning the state, are thinking about how do EJ populations use these parks, and how you state will you figure out how to increase the awareness, availability, inclusivity, and utilization of them by EJ populations. I don't think we can figure out the nitty-gritty of it in this comment.
Well, I think you just did it when you said by EJ populations.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. I mean, so do people have any, are there any objections to wording it in that way then? Are we pretty good about this, about the document, or any more thoughts?
Looking at the time.
Yeah.
This is Jen Salonetti. I really appreciate what that whole process was of bringing these 2 line items into clarification. I'm thinking actually that line 27 could be almost exactly applied to MDAR. It would just be replaced to access to farmland.
Jen, what I would propose there, I was thinking the same thing, is maybe we should put applies to all state agency plans in the same way in that last column.
Yeah.
We could put that there.
That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you for that. And then my other question is just within these comments, is it necessary to have something that references like how this is going to be tracked, how it's going to be implemented just across the board, or does that go more to that baseline piece that I might not be familiar with?
The piece about metrics appears in the comments in some form for all of the agencies. Is that what you mean, Jen?
Yeah, I guess I didn't look through to see if that was if there's a comment about metrics in every agency, but I'm hearing you say that there is, so that's helpful to know.
This is Peter Mate here, and I'm thinking back to previous meetings, and I don't know if this is helpful, but I'm going to share what I recall. I think we had talked a little bit about the metrics, but then we started talking about if we are asking for these key components to be included in strategy, the expectation is that the metrics would be rolled into the strategy development as such, right? So as they come down to execution and tactical plans, they would attach key tactical information, like what are the metrics we're measuring through. And then as part of our review, would have insight into that and might be able to provide or contribute to the shaping of those details. I don't know if that sounds familiar, resonates with others, but I distinctly remember us talking about metrics and how we include them.
Thank you, Peter. I remember that as well, but I'm wondering what other folks say about that.
I remember that as well.
So this is Marco. So just to clarify, oh, sorry, Sophia has her hand up. I'm gonna.
No, go ahead.
No,
Because mine's not related to this, so go ahead.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, so then the question would be, so this is a clarification for Peter. So you're saying, because I don't remember exactly the nuance of the conversation, that we're telling them in this document to develop metrics, but we want a second opportunity to view what they're putting together. Is that what you're saying?
Right, we're telling them in this document what should be included in the strategy. In the strategy that gets developed will include how they plan to execute that strategy. We are hoping, well, at least the expectation is that we would then be able to see what that looks like and ensure that the metrics they've put in their strategy and the execution of the strategy is appropriate. So would have a second view into it to be able to tie in the metrics versus forcing the metrics now, or at least suggesting recommending the metrics now, and then have it not really tie into the execution plans.
Yeah, this is Marcos. I mean, I would like to do that. I think it would be nice for the council to have an opportunity to weigh in again to see what the execution looks like. But I wonder where that would appear, whether it should go in here or if that's something we just kind of assert later on.
I do think it's something, it's something that we can put into this comment document of that the council intends to review the final strategy and comment at a later date about, specific, if we want to highlight the metrics piece or any of the piece. I mean, that's totally within the purview of the council because we are advising the secretary on implementing EJ principles. So I think we could mention it if we wanted to, that the council intends to comment on the final strategy when it's issued, and that these are our comments from now. I completely think that would be appropriate for us to do, a year from its issuance, and to see, or maybe even shorter if people in this group think they want to comment on it when it comes out. So I think that is always open to us.
I would support, this is Jen Salonetti, commenting when it comes out, or having the ability to review and comment on it when it is finalized.
So, and I would probably say I wouldn't say when it is issued. I would probably just give us a little bit of wiggle room and say on a future date after issuance, so that we could have time to think about it,
I appreciate that. Yeah. And I mean, we can, and can we add language of, continued periodic review? I feel like that's somewhere in here, actually, now that I'm saying that. Oh, line 3 says periodic review no less frequently than 2 years. So there is a specificity to time there.
And that was taken off of DPUs and the Energy Facility Siting Board, where they imposed that upon themselves. Both those strategies said that we'll review every 2 years. And, I think folks wanted that applied across the board, so.
Okay.
So we can, does anybody object to putting that language at the top there where Chris has placed it? Okay, I think, so where are folks now? Does anyone feel like we're ready to move on to a vote? Are there any final comments?
This is Sophia, and just two things. One, I apologize. I have to hop off momentarily for another commitment. I would love more time before a vote, but I know since I've just joined, I don't know how folks are going to feel about that. And I guess I am just wondering, since there were other things on the agenda for today, are those going to be kicked to the next meeting? And what is the plan for that? But I have to hop off momentarily for a 3 o'clock commitment.
Okay, does anyone want to move to adopt this document right now? Our goal at this meeting was to see if we could come to an agreement on this document to submit now so that EEA could continue on making the strategy final, because the next time we meet will not be for 2 months. And then that will severely impact the strategy's schedule for being able to be made final.
This is Ari Zorn. I move to adopt these changes.
I second. Lydia.
Could we have a vote on that then, please? Are you able to vote, Sophia, or are you already off?
I am here for the next minute and a half.
Okay. 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 So let's take a vote then. Melissa Ferretti, please. We're moving to we're voting on whether we will adopt this document as the consensus document for the EJ Council comments at this stage.
Melissa Ferretti votes yes.
Thank you, Melissa. Cheryl Holly, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Cheryl. Caroline Hahn, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Caroline. Lydia, you seconded. Marcos Luna, please.
Yes.
Peter Mathe, please.
Yes.
Thank you, Peter. Sophia Owen.
No, I would love more time.
Thank you, Sophia. Rishi Reddy, I'm voting yes. Jen Salonetti.
Yes.
Patricia Spence, please.
Patricia Spence votes yes.
Thank you. And Ari, you moved. So the vote carries then for approval of this document to be submitted as our consensus documents, with the option always that any of our members or organizations can submit individual comments still at this time. So thank you all for that. We have 2 minutes left, and I think we have I regret that we're not having another chance for the questions and comments from the public. Would people like to do that, or would they like to go over the proposed areas and the proposed schedule for future meetings, which we had talked about briefly last time, and that we would highlight 6 areas of the state and schedule meetings every 2 months for that. And the areas that we looked at were these that are on the map. We have really 2 minutes. What would people like to do with these remaining 2 minutes? Or would you like to adjourn, put this topic off till the next time?
This is Marcos. I suggest we adjourn because we just don't have enough time to discuss.
Okay. So we can move. Are folks in agreement with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
but maybe it'd be helpful next time if we knew if there are groups that are interested in helping to organize for sessions there. That would.
Lydia, I'll say, like, the reason that these particular areas were chosen is because in various EJ Council meetings, folks have requested us to come out there.
Okay.
So I think we would be able to find partners who are very willing to help us
Yep.
put something
Great.
together. Yeah. So it sounds like as if folks want to adjourn and keep this issue for next time, and that'll be on the top of the schedule for the next meeting. I just want to propose that we would meet 2 months from now, and then we would have a more holistic schedule that we can talk about at the top of that meeting. If that's acceptable to folks, then I will just need to open up the floor to have someone move to adjourn this meeting at this time.
Patricia Spence moves to adjourn the meeting at this time.
Thank you, Patricia. And I second, please.
I seconded Ari Zorn.
Thank you, Ari. And I'll just go down the list again. Melissa, move to
Yes.
adjourn.
Melissa Freddy, yes.
Cheryl Hawley.
Yes.
Thank you, Cheryl. Caroline Hahn,
Yes.
Lydia Lowe.
Yes.
Thank you, Lydia. Marcos Luna,
Yes.
Peter Mathe.
Yes.
Sophia, I believe, has already left. Rishi Reddy, yes. Jen Salinetti.
Yes.
Patricia, you moved, and so did Ari. So thank you all. This meeting is adjourned, and we will see you next time. And thank you for this very productive meeting and very good discussion on these issues.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.